Good morning, grade 4. It's Mrs. Stolt again. Today is Thursday, April 23rd, 2020, 4-23-20. And I'm going to try something a little bit different today. I've been doing all of your lessons more in one video, and I think I'm going to split it up a little bit. Makes it so that you can see one of the videos and get started on your work right away. I will be coming back to you with another video that goes along with some things with your reading response paragraphs, although I am going to mention it right now, and then also a little bit more details on Wisconsin history. My apologies, I forgot to bring it up that you should start reading this as of yesterday. You had a test on the, oh, I can't remember which one it was. Oh, farming and agriculture. Oh, they all run together. I was thinking paper products, but I thought, no, that was not this. That was not the one for yesterday. So this one is talking about transportation, and I will go through it in a separate video later this morning, okay, that you can look at. But it is something that you can start working on if you would like to. Tomorrow we will go through the reading nonfiction activity together, okay? But there is also an activity to do on the inside here, and obviously you have to read your newspaper, so on and so forth. So my apologies for not bringing that to your attention yesterday, but you can start working on it and at any time. We will go through our math today in just a minute. Here are your main assignments then for today. Reading Three Men in the Fiery Furnace from your Bible storybook, making sure that you read it with your family, or if you have other siblings, you can certainly read it with them as well. And then discuss the questions that are on the second side of that story. You have a memory treasure to tell me today, and you should be already ready for that, right? Finish up a castle on Viola Street. You have your spelling test to do on that one today. In math today, we're going to be talking about equivalent fractions. Your reading response paragraph, it would be paragraph number 4 altogether, the third one in your set. Okay, so you had your opening paragraph, and then you've had your 3 different paragraphs, and I need a little work on that from some of you, but it's looking good so far for the majority. The Wisconsin history transportation, so you will have to put some effort into that today to get that all together so that we can correct it and also work on that 1 second piece tomorrow. Continue on your virtual tours. Make sure, and remember, you have that to do over the weekend as well if you choose. You certainly can get it done. Have there ever been other days when you've had homework over the weekend? Yes. So don't feel as if I am making you suffer. Okay, certainly if you get it done before the weekend, that's great, but I want you to take some time. Alrighty. Excuse me. And then also your awesome letters that we are doing for the nursing home residents. Okay, so let's get into some math. Would you kindly get your math hardcover book? And if you want a piece of scratch paper and a pencil, you can, but I don't know that it's necessary. Okay. All right, I'm going to switch to my other screen. Certainly pause the video if you need to. There I am. All right, so we have a big word today, the word equivalent. Well, guess what? It simply means equal. So we are going to make equal fractions. Have you been doing this already? Yes. Remember, just a few lessons ago, you did fractions that are equal to 1, fractions that are equal to 1/2. Okay, we're just going to expand on that concept a little bit more today. So here are all sorts of fractions that are equal to 1. They give you a drawing to represent it up on top, and then list the fraction down below. So 1/2 is the same as 2/4, is the same as 3/6, is the same as 4/8, which is the same as 5/10. These are all equivalent fractions, okay? And that's the term that we use, equivalent. Yes, they are all equal to one another, but the term we use is equivalent. Just like, for example, we could say if I slide all of these shapes one on top of the other, they would all cover up the same exact piece of the circle. But what's that special term we use for a slide? In math, it's a translation. So sometimes we have to use the right term, all right? we would use a translation to move these shapes onto one another and find out that they would cover up the same equivalent piece of that circle. All right. So they are called equivalent fractions. So now let's take a look at example 1. The rectangle on the left has 3 equal parts. 1, 2, 3. We see that 2 parts are shaded, so 2/3 of the figure is shaded. Now we want to have the rectangle on the right that has 6 equal parts. How many parts do we have to shade so that this would be the same as this? If we would do a translation and slide them across, this would be covered up equally with this. Did you figure it out? We would have to do 1, 2, 3, 4. So like here's the same section that's this bar. Here's the same section that's this bar. All right, we see that 4 parts out of 6 must be shaded. 1, 2, 3, 4. This means 2/3 is the same as 4/6. 2/3 is the same as 4/6. And again, if we did a translation and slid them either direction, one on top of the other, they would cover up the same exact amount of space in that rectangle. All right, let's look at example 2. What equivalent fractions are shown at right? So again, here we have a rectangle divided into 8ths. So what fraction do we see here? 2/8. What fraction do we see here? 1/4. So what can we say? 2/8 is an equivalent fraction with 1/4. They are equal to one another. All right. Equal portions of each rectangle are shaded. The rectangles shown are equal. Okay, and here are our equivalent fractions. 2/8 equals 1/4. All right, let me turn my book to the other side. You can look at your next page as well. All right, so now we're going to talk about, my camera gets a little bit hiccupy when I move things. Sorry about that. Hopefully it will stay. I think we got it. All right, so now we're going to talk about something that you already know. If you multiply any number times 1, what do you get? The other number. So 2 times 1 is 2. 2,000 times 1 is 2,000. 1/2 times 1 is 1/2. All right, so think about that. Anything times 1 is that number. Now I'm going to show you some magic. Remember that the number 1 is also equal to 2/2, 3/3, 4/4, 5/5, 6/6, so on and so forth. 100 100th, 2,000 over 2,000. They would all equal 1. So these fractions here, where the numerator and the denominator are the same, they are all equivalent fractions and they are equal to the value of 1. Remember that for our next part. So then we can use that information to find equivalent fractions. That anything times 1 is the number itself, and that all of these fractions, an infinite number, equal 1. So here we go. Let's take a look at multiplying fractions. When you multiply fractions, you multiply across the top as if there were a bar all the way across the top, and then multiply what would be underneath that bar. So here we're going to find an equivalent fraction for 1/2 by multiplying it by another name for 1, 2 over 2, or 2/2. Do you see how this means 1? So 1/2 times 2 over 2 equals 1 times 2 is 2, just like they have here. 2 times 2 equals 4. You could think about your fraction bar being right through the middle of that. Not an equal bar, a fraction bar. Okay, they are different. All right. 1/2 equals 2/4, something you already know. So by multiplying 1/2 by 2/2, another name for 1, we find an equivalent fraction. 1/2 and 2/4 are equal to one another. We can find other fractions equal to 1/2 by multiplying by other fractions names for other fraction names for 1. For example, if we multiply 1/2 times 3/3, we get 3/6. Why? Because 1 times 3 is 3, 2 times 3 is 6. Notice we aren't doing anything across. It's just right straight in that line. Right straight here. 1/2 times 4/4 is 4/8. So 4/8 equals 1/2. 1/2 times 5/5 equals 5/10. 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10. What if we did 1/2 times 100/100? What would we get? 1 times 100 is 100. 2 times 100 is 200. That would be equal or equivalent fractions too. Okay, I don't think I want to draw a picture to show this. All right, our last example. Find 4 fractions equal to 1/3 by multiplying 1/3 by 2/2, 3/3, 4/4, and 5/5. So you actually have to do all of that work. And I'm going to write it out for you here rather than just having you look at what they did, because I want you to see how to write it. So if they ask you to find all of these within your answer box on your math, you would do 1/3 times 2/2 equals 1 times 2 is 2, 3 times 2 is 6. All right, let's try the next one. 1/3 times 3/3 equals, I'm sorry, my paper is jumping there. Try to be more still. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Let's try 1/3 times 4/4. You multiply the numerators and get 4. You multiply the denominators and get 12. So 1/3 is equivalent to 4/12. Excuse me. Last one, 1/3. I'm sorry. Times 5/5. What do we do? 1 times 5 is 5. We multiply the denominators. 3 times 5 is 15. All right, there we have it. Boy, my camera has the hiccups today, doesn't it? Sorry about that. All right, so now you're going to try some practice on your own. All right, so all of these fractions here were equal to 1/3. That means they are also equivalent to one another, aren't they? So here we go. Name the equivalent fractions shown by each. So you would simply, if it doesn't ask you to draw anything, which it does not, you would simply write what fraction do you see here, an equal sign, and the fraction that you see here. I'm going to cover up my answers for you here. And the same for B. Write the fraction that you see here and the equal sign and what fraction you see here. That's all that you need to do for A and B. Turn the page. Oh, my machine is going to jump again. All right. So here you're going to draw pictures to show that the following pairs of fractions are equivalent. And you have drawn equivalent fractions before, okay? You have done that before. My suggestion to you is use rectangles or squares. You know, use the boxes on your math page, especially, I realize you're doing it on just regular paper right now for your practice, but use the boxes to help you draw those shapes. So here you would make the same size rectangles or squares. One of them would be divided into 4 equal pieces. with 2 shaded in. The second one, which was the same size as this one, would be divided in 2 pieces with 1 side shaded in. All right, you have done these before. All righty. And then on the bottom, it asks us to do the same thing that we did for example 3. So for F, G, H, and I, for every single one of those, you are going to have 4 problems. 4 problems for F, 4 problems for G, 4 problems for H, 4 problems for I. Okay, I would appreciate it if today you would all send a picture of your practice. I don't always ask you to do that. Some of you do anyway, and I appreciate it. But today I want everyone to show me a picture of their practice. You can get started on your math because not every problem in our math has to do with this lesson, but send a picture of your practice, okay? All right, and I will correct it as quickly as I can and get it back to you. If you want to do it before you do your lesson, you sure can. If you want to wait, go ahead. Just I want to make sure that you're doing your problems for today correctly, okay? All right, back to me and get away from that jumpy camera. I'm sorry about that. It's very sensitive today for some reason. Anytime I'm not even touching the table with anything except my hand, and just when I'm writing, it's making it wiggle a lot. So, there you have it, that technology. It's quite a blessing, but sometimes it can be a little bit tricky, can't it? All right, so there you go. You've got your math to do, and then just one other reminder, you've got plenty of things to do this morning already. Your Wisconsin history to work on, and I will go into a little bit more detail on the activity you have on the inside when I do in a separate lesson. So I'm going to talk a little bit more, some ideas on your paragraphs and Wisconsin history when I do a separate video, okay? And I might do something in your hardcover reading book too, so maybe have that available for me if you would. All right, have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.